pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, two quick announcements before we start. One, we were notified the last 2 weeks that there's been some trouble with the audio. So apparently if you're watching on YouTube, it's fine, but on Zoom, there's a little bit of a problem. So we're going to try to work that out. So if people at home are watching, you get a better picture on YouTube. You just can't participate. If you want to participate, you have to do it through Zoom. And the other is if anybody has any comments on any agenda item, we would ask you to come up now. That's not the public hearings, just anything else on the agenda. So before we do that, we'll see if there's any correspondence, Amber.
Yes, we have emails from Kim Bunstrom, Rob Sloan, Pam Demarest, Roger Unick regarding the Rams Head and Dunkers.
Okay, so does anybody want to speak to any agenda items? Okay. Hands in the audience. Okay. All right, so we'll start, we'll set some public hearings. Hey, you want to start it, Joe?
All right. Whereas Mark Labrosi, 9A Baldwin Road, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a staked mooring and pulley system at Cockles Harbor designated as latitude 41.0884 north and longitude 72.3237 west. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 90-5 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, public hearing will be held at 6:15 p.m. prevailing time on the 7th day of September 2022 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas Oscar Slaughterbeck and Carolyn Ritter of 43 Winthrop Road have petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to construct a fixed timber dock consisting of a 4-foot by 98-foot fixed catwalk elevated at a minimum of 4 feet above grade of marsh and constructed with open grade decking with 2 3-foot by 6-foot access steps and a 6-foot by 20-foot float secured by a 4 by 10-inch diameter piles and choke to maintain 2 feet elevation above bottom. Now, therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:17 p.m. prevailing time on the 7th day of September 2022 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed construction. So
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Stephen Sewell, 4 Robin Lane, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island to install a mooring in Smith Cove at a location designated as latitude 41.05068 degrees north and longitude 72.31626 degrees west. Now therefore be it resolved pursuant to section 90-5 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:19 prevailing time on the 7th day of September 2022 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition to the proposed installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that William McCoy is hereby appointed as provisional assessor effective August 18th, 2022. So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
be resolved that Julie Weisenberg is hereby appointed to serve as a member of the Comprehensive Plan Task Force. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $2,126 to receiver of taxes Anne Marie Sedio from the 2022 A1330.414 receiver of taxes postage account for the purchase of the following stamps: 3,500 first class postage stamps at 60 cents and 50 cents extra ounce stamps at 24 cents and 10 global stamps at $1.40. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Whereas the town board pursuant to section 43-12 of the town code is authorized and set the fees in connection with the issuance of building permits. Whereas the last time the town board globally updated the building permit fees in 2018. And whereas the building inspector has requested that the subject fees be increased to reflect the current economic conditions. And whereas the town board concurs that the subject fees should be increased Now therefore be it resolved that the resolution numbers 244 of 2018 is hereby superseded, and the building department fee schedule shall be as followed. The building department fees, there are a page and a half of them. Do you want me to read one?
No, it's 2.5 pages.
Oh,
No,
2.5 pages.
no,
Okay.
they've been available. We've discussed it for about 6 weeks now.
Yeah, and they're in line with, even less than in line with what's being charged from our neighboring towns. Some of these projects, I think the explanation is some of these projects have gotten quite large and requires a great deal more time of the building department to go in and make these kinds of assessments, and evaluations in each one of these projects. So therefore, a lot of it is aimed towards those bigger homes and those bigger projects that are being submitted for approval.
And it also goes with what this town board's been trying to do is user fees as opposed to the general tax base paying specific fees.
So I say so moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor hereby authorized and directed to credit the sum of $150 to Janet Goldberg for a double payment to the building department. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas pursuant to section 82-12 of the town code of the town board the town board is authorized to declare that emergency conditions exist that could create a water shortage within the town and adopt rules to ameliorate those drought conditions. And whereas such rules may regulate the use of irrigation systems and other water consumption activities. And whereas Water Advisory Committee has worked with the town engineer after having input to promulgate such rules. And whereas the town board finds that drought conditions may occur in the future and to be prepared for same, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby adopts the following drought forecast evaluation and implementation procedures, town water restriction regulations, section 82-12 of the town code. And the town clerk's office has a copy of the Shelter Water Restriction Regulations criteria available. So I will not read through 4 pages of them. No move.
Just a comment on this. This is the work that started in 2018 by the WAC, and it's a great document, long overdue for adoption by the town board. It puts us on notice for 4 classifications, one of which was guarded. The second category is warning. The third is emergency, and the fourth one is Shelter Island disaster. And it involves, in the beginning of a drought, a lot of voluntary measures. As you get into the second and third stages, it's a mixture of voluntary and mandatory measures. And when you get into the fourth, obviously, of Shelter Island disaster, where we haven't had any rain for extended periods of times. And how we measure that is through our wells. So we now have the ability, rather than periodically be able to go out and measure the depth of these wells, is with the new adaptation with the USGS, is to be able to get a more readily feed on these wells so that we can react rather than monthly, almost on a daily basis, so that when we're confronted with a drought, a lot can go on in four weeks of a drought with absolutely no rain. So it would help us, move from a stage 1 kind of an alert kind of situation to a kind of a stage 2 kind of thing. So it's just a little bit more scientific, a little bit better able to predict these kind of drought emergencies. And the other thing is, the last thing I would leave you with is that we should regard water restrictions 365 days a year. We should not be waiting for any kind of drought emergency to do this. What we all do together, we're one island to protect the aquifer, is very, very key in the success of maintaining water here on the island. So I urge everybody, especially in the summer months, when you have visitors out, try to educate them about length of showers and things, the use of water and things of that nature, because the water obviously is a key element to the success of Shelter Island. So, I've noticed a little change in our water down at Silver Beach in the last week and a half, that it's starting to taste a little funny, which means it's starting to get a little bit salted from just the drought. So it's just something that we urge you to do. I want to applaud the WAC for their work in putting this document together. It's long overdue for adoption, and we support it 100%. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the town board is exploring the viability of creating a town transfer of development rights, TDR, program and bank exclusively to be used in connection with community housing. And whereas both New York State Community Preservation Fund, CPF, enabling legislation and our resultant CPF chapter, along with our current comprehensive plan, compel us to do so. And whereas in accordance with said expiration, a generic environmental impact statement needs to be generated, whereas PW Grosser Consulting Incorporated is a well-respected engineering hydrologist firm and well qualified to produce same and at a quoted fee of $100,000. Whereas the aforementioned New York State CPF enabling legislation authorizes the use of CPF monies to fund the exploration and creation of a TDR program and bank. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute any and all documents in connection with the retention of PW Grosser Consulting Incorporated to prepare a generic environmental impact statement and create a proposed TDR program. Be it further resolved that the fees generated by PW Grosser Consulting Incorporated in connection with the generic environmental impact statement and creation of the proposed TDR program shall be paid out of the Community Preservation Fund. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas the town is the owner of property, which is a component of Suffolk County Tax Map Number 700-20-1-16, the subject property, and whereas Landfall Properties LLC by Joseph Quinn, a member, is the owner of real property adjacent to the subject property with an address of 47L South Ferry Road, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 700-20-1-15. And whereas an above ground electrical service line travels across the subject property, held in place by 4 electrical poles along its southeastern border boundary line. And whereas Landfall Properties LLC has proposed to remove the 4 electrical poles located on subject property's southeast property line and bury attached electrical service underground in an electrical easement across his own northwest boundary line. And whereas the town board is desirous of relocating the subject electrical lines from the poles to an underground conduit, and whereas Landfall Properties LLC will be responsible for all costs of the pole removal and the relocation of the electrical lines, and whereas Landfall Properties LLC will return the disturbed areas of the subject property to its original condition at its own cost, and whereas any electrical disruption shall be limited to approximately 4 hours. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to enter into a license agreement with Landfall Properties LLC to perform the subject work, subject to the review and approval by the town attorney. Now, therefore, be it further resolved that the license agreement is subject to that an electrical easement to be provided over 47L South Ferry Road, where the relocated electrical service wires will be placed as approved by the town attorney. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute the agreement between the town of Shelter Island and Nelson Pope and Boris LLC, 70 Maxis Road, Melville, New York, 11747 for the planning consulting services for the preparation of the housing plan for the town at a sum of $35,000. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby approves to retain Messina Perillo Hill LLP for legal services rendered and to be rendered in connection with the Ram's Head Inn dock permit application. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute the amended memorandum agreement between the County of Suffolk, the Town of Shelter Island, and Bus Patrol America LLC, and shall be effective retroactively to the date of the original MOA, executed on December 8th, 2020, is resolution number 505 of 2020. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $2,675 from the 2022 A3120.491 Police Department Contracts account to @Scene LLC, PO Box 68, Sartell, Minnesota 56377 for the Crime Fighter subscription from April 25, 2022 through April 25, 2023. So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to recuse myself from the next one.
Okay.
I'll read it.
Yeah.
Whereas Alexander Smith and Lillian Rousseau Greenberg have applied for a rebate from the town of Shelter Island under Chapter 88 of the Shelter Island Code to install a low nitrogen sanitary system for property located at 45 North Midway, Shelter Island, New York. And whereas the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board has reviewed the project, determined its eligibility due to estimated annual nitrogen reduction of 14.5, and recommended a conditional rebate of up to $8,000 be awarded. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby adopts the findings of the WQIAB report dated June 2nd, 2022, and certifies that the low nitrogen sanitary system project by Alexander Smith and Lillian Rousseau Greenberg at 45 North Midway is eligible for conditional rebate of up to $8,000 ineligible costs for the project when completed in accordance with the terms of the conditional agreement. And be it further resolved that any low nitrogen sanitary system installed pursuant to this rebate must be a unit generally approved for use pursuant to the Suffolk County Health Department. And be it further resolved that this rebate shall be secondary to any federal, state, county, or other grants or rebates obtained by the applicant. And be it further resolved that this rebate is non-transferable and is valid only as to the applicant to premises delineated in the application. And be it further resolved that this rebate shall cover only those expenses associated with manufacturer with a current legally existing structure. The applicant may install a higher capacity system using applicant's own funds to make up the difference in cost between the lower and higher capacity system. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be given to the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board and the Building Department. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Meg, you want to?
No, you go, Jim.
All right.
We marked them all.
Okay. Whereas Nicholas de Rivers and Jill Brazenza of 3 Oak Tree Lane have petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a wetlands permit to remove the existing dwelling, docks, pool, patio, accessory buildings, and septic, and remove existing construction from the vegetative buffer, construct a new dwelling, pool, deck, accessory buildings, and IA septic with a PSD leaching, with all new work to be done outside the vegetative buffer. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 129-7 of the code of the town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:20 prevailing time on the 7th day of September 2022 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Lucy Singh, 48 Lake Drive, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a wetlands permit to complete the rebuilding of a pre-existing deck that was in poor condition and removed to be rebuilt without permit, removal of existing cesspool, and install a new IA system with leaching pool. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 129-7 of the code of the town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:22 p.m. prevailing time on the 7th day of September 2022 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas Suzanne Townsend, 27 Dickerson Drive, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a wetlands permit to renovate existing structure to include windows/doors, siding, roof, interior renovation, and a new addition over garage, reduction of existing wood deck, and removal of bay windows on ground floor, new addition of 1 bathroom, and all work to be done within existing building footprint. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 129-7 of the code of the town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:24 p.m. prevailing time on the 7th day of September 2022 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
I just so note on that one that the CAC will not have met by that particular date on that property yet. So our meeting is scheduled the week following that September 7th date. So I just wanted to note, you to note that. Okay.
Okay, this following is for the video conferencing law, the details of which could be found with the town clerk. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held on September 7, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled A Local Law Creating a New Town Code Chapter, Chapter 2 entitled Video Conferencing, to allow members of the public bodies of the town to participate in meetings via video conference. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the Senior Center and Nutrition Program has received a very generous donation in the amount of $1,000 from the Shelter Island Run. And whereas receipt of these funds was unknown at budget time, Now therefore be it resolved that the following 2022 budget revisions are hereby approved. The $500 increase to the 2022 A2705N nutrition donations revenue account and $500 increase to the 2022 A2705SR senior center. Am I reading wrong?
No, you're right.
Okay. Senior center donations revenue account to be funded by said donation and $500 increase to the 2022 A6772.400 food expense account and $500 increase to the A22 A6777.145 AAA driver's expense account. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be it resolved, the following 2022 budget transfers are hereby approved. When we read through all of them, or you?
They only have a few.
Okay, all right. 28,000 from the A1990.400 contingency to the A1440.497 engineering professional services. $2,000 from the A1110.496 Association of Towns to the A1110.200 equipment code. $2,440 from the contingency to the A1110.200 equipment. $300 from the A1440.124 intern to the A1440.484 office and miscellaneous. $2,294 from the A1990.400 contingency to the A3510.410 kennels and shelters. And $25 from the A1220.200 equipment to the A4050.200 equipment. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the following 2021 budget transfers provided and recommended by Colin and Nadowski after their year-end review are hereby approved. And there's about 8 pages of transfers that are available in the town clerk's office. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that the following 2021 budget revisions are hereby approved. A $7,500 increase to the 2021 A3089A revenue account to be funded by rebate revenue, and $7,500 increase to the 2021 A3120.272 expense account. $21,394.90 increase to the 2021 A3089W to be funded by grant revenue, and $21,394.90 increase to the 2021 A1440.497 expense account, and $102,046 increase to the 2021 A1010.497 expense account to be funded by unassigned fund balance. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to credit the reimbursement check in the amount of $215.60 from Edgewood Partners Insurance to the 2022 A1910.400 insurance account. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to credit the reimbursement check in the amount of $5,000 from Heavy Equip to the 2022 DA5130.446 account. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be it resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $56,124 for the 2022 Police Department A3120.491 contracts account to the town of Southold for the 2022 dispatch payment due for 2022. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that 2022 general claims under 1135 through 1286 in the amount of $175,203.49. 2022 highway claims 122 through 140, the amount of $48,975.32. 2022 community preservation claim number 10 in the amount of $3,300 are hereby approved for payment as audited, and the supervisor and or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of same. So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $657.88 from the 2022 3620.491 building inspector's conference account, $657.89 from the 2022 E8010.491 zoning officers account to Car Business Systems, PO Box 936175, Atlanta, Georgia, for the maintenance contract for the copy machine in the building department for the period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. So moved.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we're
We
gonna,
got with the one add-on, right? The ambulance foundation.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Very end.
Yeah.
Yeah, like after the public hearings.
Okay.
Oh, do it afterwards?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so at this time, we're gonna recess the meeting and open a public hearing on the Granite Waterways application. Amber?
On the application, Keith's Granite, 11 Hillside Drive, to install a mooring in West Neck Bay near Hilo Dock at a location designated as latitude 41.065721 degrees north and longitude 72.363724 degrees west.
Pick up, yeah, the WMAC met on July 11th of this year on this memorial application. The WMAC did not take a vote. However, our good chairman, Don Needham, worked with the applicant and found a suitable location for the boat. And in a resolution, that new latitude is latitude 41.065, 721 degrees north, and longitude 72.363724 degrees west. Thank you, John, for working with that applicant, making that happen. Oh, the vote, well, there was no vote because we didn't vote on it, but
Okay.
they gave John the authority to find that
Gotcha.
location.
Okay, any comments on this application? Okay, we'll close that hearing and open the hearing on the Hopkey Waterways application. Amber?
Application of Bruce Hopkey, 43 West Neck Road, to relocate mooring designated as W3137 from a location off Simpson Road to a location designated as latitude 41.064698 degrees north and longitude 72.363503 degrees west.
On that same date in July 11th, the WMAC met and they assigned the following grid coordinates. They moved it slightly. John again worked with the applicant to make sure this new location was good. And the committee approved of it. Latitude 41.064698 degrees north, longitude 0.363503 west. That's very close to what they sought to begin with, and it was just moved slightly.
Well, what's the longitude?
It was longitude 72.36. Right.
Yep.
72.3639491 west was the original.
Yep.
And we moved it to 72.363503 west.
Right.
Okay, very close to the property.
Any comments on this application? Okay, we'll close that hearing and Stephen and I are going to leave. Amber's going to take over.
Amber, you're going to read that statement?
Yes. All right. Okay, so based upon a review of current pending litigation, Town Attorney Steve Healy and Town Supervisor Jerry Siller will recuse themselves from participating in this hearing and the pending application. We are represented by counsel. Timothy Hill is on Zoom. So if we need any legal advice during the meeting, he will chime in. So give Amber a chance to sit down, and if you would read the notice for this hearing. Oh, actually, before we get started with that, I just want to, I'm hoping that this is not going to be a contentious hearing, but I want to ask everybody to be respectful, to be kind, no personal attacks. We want to keep this meeting very calm. Everyone will have 3 minutes. If you need more than 3 minutes, we will have a timer. Christina will have that timer going in the back. If you need more time than 3 minutes, I'm going to ask you to stop at 3 minutes. And once everyone has had a chance who wishes to speak to give their 3 minutes, then I will circle back to anyone who wishes to speak again. But I ask that on a second round that you not reiterate what you've already said, that you only address new points, or if you have a response to something that someone said. So I want to try and keep this as clean and tidy and neat as possible.
Continuation, so she doesn't have to read. the
Oh,
votes.
okay. Oh, thank you. Right, so, report of the Waterways Committee.
What are we going on now?
This is the Ramside and Dock application.
Okay. You know,
Months ago.
yeah,
Okay.
months
All right,
months
then-
ago, I'd have to go back to the files, which I have here, and find the report, but,
I'm not sure they were complete before it was.
now,
Yeah, I was
John, you
gonna
have any
say-
recollection on the
Yes,
Ramsey Inn dock? You know, that,
I think what we'll,
there was
yes,
no vote.
Yeah, that's what-
There was no vote.
I think what we'll do then is ask the applicant or representative to come up and just present what the application is at this point.
Hi guys, Jack Costello, on behalf of the applicant. This is Andrea Carter, the owner. You know, this has been going back and forth for quite some time. And a little louder. We've been going through this for quite some time, and what we did was come up with a solution where the dock will be expanded seaward further than it already is, and the floating docks will stay the same square footage as what's there. There's just going to be a slight reconfiguring of the floating docks, but staying within the existing square footage. So there'll be no further seaward expansion of the dock. There will be no greater footprint of the floating docks or the main dock itself. Any expansion will be landward, just a ramp up the hill. So we tried to work within the parameters of what is already there. And there was a little problem with a typo in the DEC permit, but we fixed that yesterday.
Yeah.
Where there was just one misprinted page. We had to send you guys. That was fixed. So as of right now, I'm just coming up here just to answer any questions that you could have. That was basically what I was asked to do, get it to a point where it configures with what's there now. And that's what we've done.
And this dock, just for clarification, is the old Bennett dock.
Yes,
So it's not a new dock going onto the property. It's,
right. It's a rebuild of an existing dock. We already had a DEC permit for a dock just north of this that was far, far greater. So we decided to back off of that and repurpose the Bennett dock for the Ramsey Inn, and then build it within the constraints of what is existing there. Same square footage floats. Don't want to keep going back over there, but basically just rebuilding the dock.
So it is the floats that exist now on the Bennett dock, square footage will not change, but the configuration without going further seaward. I know I'm repeating it, but I just want to make sure I got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Same square footage. No seaward, no further.
That was our understanding when we had the field trip in March on I think it was March 11th, something like that, when we all went out there. That was kind of the understanding that we came up with. Yeah.
now the Bennett dock is subject to an easement. So it's on the Ramsey Inn property, but an easement was granted to the Bennett property. What is the status of that?
Status is, if we were granted approval, that can be a contingency on the approval, and then we will absorb that right away into the Ramsey property.
It'll be extinguished, in other words?
It'll be, the right of way will be extinguished.
Any other questions from the board?
No, not for me.
You guys can sit down and
Thank you.
if I could, I've got a few people who have signed up to address, and anyone on Zoom, if you would raise your virtual hand. I'll start with, I guess there's a few people in the room. Did anyone want to come forward? Instead of me calling out who was on the list, is there anyone who wishes to speak in the room at this point?
Sure.
All right, John?
I'm usually confused. I'm a little bit confused now.
Just if you could state your name for the record.
Charlie. 40-foot float that's over on the coastline. That can be part of the configuration.
Yes.
I thought you said you were just gonna rebuild what's there right now.
Same square footage.
It's a different layout.
Yes, reconfigured.
Is it all right if I go
Yes, yes. Actually, maybe Jack, you should come up so that way you're also easier to pick up on the mic if you're answering the question.
Yes.
Yes.
Once you allow it, it's fine.
Yes.
This might be an easier, this might be an easier way to do it.
Yes.
So there is a little bit of a change in the configuration, of the dimensions.
Yeah, well, the ramp is going to land on a 6 by 20 foot float. And then it'll turn into a 8 by 40 foot L. That's 440 square feet, which is what currently exists there. And so there'll be no seaward expansion. So it's just the same square footage.
No, there is no 40-foot float there.
Right? There's an 8 by 30 and a 10 by 20. So that equals 440 square feet float.
Same square footage and slightly different configuration.
Right.
According to the plans.
That answers my question.
Okay.
All right.
Should I just stay here?
I was going to say you may want to just sit in the front row in case there's other questions. Mark Lean, you had your hand up next. And then I see Bill Darrow and Alex Kriegsman with their hands up in the Zoom. I will get to you. But we'll start with Mark Lean first.
Exactly whose property is this dock on? Who owns the property?
So Jack, if you want to.
Hey, Mark. It's the Ramshead property and there is an easement on it as of right now, right away. Like I said, so it's actually on the Ramshead property with a deeded right away to the Bennett property. That is going to be extinguished.
But it's not extinguished now, so it's on the Bennett property.
Yeah.
It's no, it's not. It's on the Ramshead property with a deeded easement.
Legally, it's who owns the property
Ramshead.
and who, but it's on the Bennett. The Bennetts have the right to the property, not the inn. Is that correct?
Well, as of right now, they have a deeded easement on Ramshead property, which is going to be extinguished with an approval. There's no reason to, we're not going to get an approval. There's no reason to extinguish it. We'll have to change the plan. As of right now, we're looking for an approval and then we will extinguish the right of way.
But it's not. Is the Bennett property a residential or a commercial property?
Bennett property is a residential property.
And is the Ramshead Inn property a pre-existing non-conforming property?
These are questions that I feel should work. And I don't.
Is the Ramshead Inn property a pre-existing non-conforming property?
Yes.
To say I don't have the exact answer, so I don't want to get it wrong. But
So in the event that the Bennett property, that this property, which is currently controlled by the Bennett property and may change, is a residential property or pre-existing non-conforming property, are you or are you not bound to the existing usage and not a commercial usage? And in addition to that, are you planning on using it for commercial usage in order to use commercial benefit the Ramshead Inn property?
These are questions that I can't really answer. I mean,
say so,
like I
yeah.
said, these have to be.
We'll take the questions under advisement.
That's something that we will consider. So unless
Suggest that they be answered fully and in writing prior to any approval. And I also would like to know what commercial uses, if any, will be allowed, because it would be an expansion of commercial use into a pre-existing non-conforming, which some people say is not allowed. So will there be a launch using it? Will there be commercial boats tying up to it? What will, the linchpin is, how will it be used? Will it be used as a residential dock or a commercial dock in a residential property?
Bill Darrow, you had your hand up next.
Try to get, yep, there we go. Good evening, everybody. Sorry, I'm on a boat up in Salem, so sorry for a little bit more informal setting. I am wearing my Eeltown Oyster shirt to support the local bayman. So I'd like to make a couple points. When I bought my property, or my family bought our property on Little Ram Island, that was before it had changed hands. There was no launch I've been on Cockles Harbor for 20 years. I've never seen a launch from the Ram's Head Inn. I believe that if the town is going to consider approving this dock or any dock for the Ram's Head Inn, it needs to include a limitation on usage. We can't have mission creep. You know, if we're going to allow someone who has a residential dock, not set up for commercial, to have mission creep, what's to stop someone from buying a van and running a jitney service up and down 114? The town should be licensing these activities and having hearings around it and determinations around it. And as somebody who has a house right there, has a dock right there, has kids who go out on kayaks, I am incredibly concerned about this 40-foot facing dock and the mission creep or expansion that is clearly a significant possibility. All we have to do is look at what's happening at the Cheekwood today from a parking perspective in terms of not anticipating bad things that can happen. And we need to think about this. We can't approve things without really thinking about the implications upon the neighborhood, upon the environment, upon noise and waterways. I've already seen people rafting up in that area over there where they're not supposed to be rafting up. I think approving a dock of this size, it's not necessary. We're all on Cockles Harbor. We deal with 20-foot docks all the time, unless someone's planning to bring in 45, 50-foot boats in there. I just don't see the need for a 40-foot dock. I love Jack Costello. He's been a great builder. He works for his clients. I'm not contradicting anything he's saying in terms of what his clients are trying to do. I just don't think it's necessary to have such a big dock. And I think the town board needs to ensure that the usage is limited to what was done previous to Ms. Carter's ownership. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Kriegsman, you had your hand up next.
Yes, good afternoon. First of all, I just wanted to make my appearance on the record. My name is Alex Kriegsman. I am counsel for the applicant, 279 Main Street in Sag Harbor. And I want to just make sure I have the opportunity to respond on behalf of the applicant to at the end of the comments. I see that there's at least one other attorney here who wants to comment. I'd like to respond to the individual comments as well at the end. I also just wanted to note, I very much appreciated hearing at the outset, the encouragement that this is going to be a civil discourse. And I hope that will continue. I do want to note my objection to the interaction with Mr. Ween, in that this is a public comment and it's an opportunity for everyone to express their opinion either in favor or against the dock, like the gentleman who just spoke and did so respectfully and articulated his position. It's not public interrogation. If people have questions, I think the board and their counsel have the opportunity to listen to them and respond to them if appropriate at the end of the comment. But individuals shouldn't be going up and interrogating Mr. Costello or anyone else. So thanks for having this tonight. I'm noting my appearance and request the opportunity to respond at the end of the comment to the comments that are made. Thank you.
We will start back to the end. I do believe everything has been respectful so far. I haven't chimed in. Kathleen Stephenson.
You're
Yes.
muted, Kath.
I am muted and I'm trying also to undo the video, but here we go. Thank you very much. So thank you and good afternoon to all of you. I'm a resident of Ram Island, and I find the discussion here today extremely helpful and constructive. Now, the only thing is that I am not entirely sure I fully understand whether there is a process to transform, if you will, a residential dock into a commercial one, if indeed the idea here is to build on the Bennett property, or the property that will be or has been essentially purchased by the owner, Andrea Carter, of the Ramshead Inn. So that's the question that I would very much like to understand before any further movement takes place. Thank you very much.
Right now, we're discussing the application at hand, which is the Bennett dock that's attached to the Bennett dock, or the Ramshead Inn dock that's called the old Bennett dock. So any future applications are not for today's discussion.
So that old Bennett dock is technically on Ramshead property with an easement that will be extinguished should this be approved.
Pam Demarest? You're on mute.
I was just going to start the video as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, give me a second. Thanks. I actually have a question that for Mr. Costello. Basically, the Bennett dock. We have the. Can I just get the dimensions of that dock again? The existing dock.
5 by 85.
No, the floaters. The floaters on the dock. Because when I look at the plans, when we add these new floaters to it, actually, we do extend the dock further into the water by about 5 feet or more. So that's just a little detail that I think should be clarified, because that needs to be clarified as far as the size of those floaters. The truth is that the town board itself has not done its due diligence in the SECRA analysis. So I am going to ask the town board to tell me what they consider this action in this project to be. Is this a type 1 action, a type 2 action, or an unlisted action? And according to town code, to me, the way I read it in, I think it's 60-1310, I know I put it in my letter to you folks today, that if there is a chance of any despoiling or degradation of the wetlands, the tidal wetlands, then this must undergo, it is then considered a type 1 action under the SECRA law, and therefore must undergo a full environmental assessment as per the state environmental law. And this has not been done. There's been no declaration by the town board on the SECRA standings of this application. And that's the first step in any project in the wetlands area that must be done according to state law. And I have seen degradation already of the shoreline. You folks know where I live, right next door to the Bennett property, which is adjacent to the Ramshead Inn property. So I just wonder what the town board intends to do as far as making that SECRA declaration before they make any action on this application. And I think that they also must look into a wetlands permit that would be required to build the ramp up the bluff. And I do believe they need to go to the zoning board of appeals for the setback variance, because if they build that staircase on the shoreline, it will be into the 25-foot setback that now exists, and then therefore encroaching further into the 30-foot setback that exists in the AA residential zone. So these are my concerns. I don't know that the town has received all of the applications from all of the involved agencies and done their due diligence in coordinating that information. This applicant has now received a permit also for the moorings, and the application to the DEC indicates, in fact, that they are now considering this a commercial dock. Unlike the first application where it was listed as a private dock, now it is checked off as a commercial dock. So I'm expecting the town board to request that all applications regarding this construction are received prior to making any further ruling on this application.
Just so you know, Pam, we're listening to all the questions in public hearing. We got a load of correspondence and just before this meeting started. So we will be considering all of that at our next work session. I don't know if it'll be in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, just because we've got a lot on our plate in 2 weeks. after today's.
This year.
So we will adjourn this hearing. We will not close it so that we can continue the conversation.
Okay,
So
may I just say that I did find it rather inconsiderate that the agenda was posted yesterday at around 5 o'clock and this was not on the agenda. And at 8:30 this morning, it was. I think it's inconsiderate to the public, and I think the town board should review their process in setting these reconvened public hearings. Because the reconvened public hearings, I know by law, do not need to be posted, don't need to be advertised. We don't need to know anything until you put it on the agenda. But if you're putting it on the agenda less than 24 hours prior to the hearing being reconvened, I think it's just inconsiderate of this town board to do so.
Well, it's another
Thank
reason
you.
why
I'm
we.
happy to hear that you will adjourn this and you will look at all
Adjourning.
all of the correspondence that you receive and all the comments that are said this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob DeLuca, you have your hand up.
Hi and good evening. I apologize for the light coming over the back of my head. Just briefly, something I'm listening to the prior speakers, the secret process, and having been at this for like 40 years, I think there's a lot to be said for the value of disclosure that you get from the secret process, and a narrowly scoped environmental assessment at some level might be able to answer a lot of the questions, particularly about issues like growth inducement, the potential commercial use of the dock, what that looks like, what the details would be of surrendering the easement that people have been talking about. And I know a lot of times people just think that the environmental review process is something to be looking specifically at, vegetation or damage to the natural environment. But there is a real important element, which is, the issues related to community and the understanding of the project. So we've gotten a lot of calls about this project. Obviously, our members on Shelter Island are concerned, as many are, about the implications. And I would just weigh in to ask that you seriously consider taking a further look at this through the secret process as a tool to help you organize and formalize the responses to the questions that have been raised, and to consider, there's been discussion about alternatives, how those alternatives were arrived at and what benefits they provide, and all of those types of things in one place at one time in one document can be very helpful for decision makers. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak in the physically present audience? James Eklund.
Good evening. I'm James Eklund. I live at Midway Road, Shelter Island. Just from a historical perspective, this dock in question was the Ramshead dock when the property was purchased in 1979. It was the actual dock that was used by the Ramshead and had been for quite some time. I have some old advertisements and the local newspapers that depicted the Ramshead as having a dock from the early 60s. So I would offer these to you as some indication that the dock had been used by the inn for many, many years. Subsequently, after the purchase of the dock, there was an easement that was granted. And the reason the easement was granted in the first place was because the Bennett property did not have its own well. The well that on the Ramshead property supplied the Bennett property. And it was very cantankerous, and the Bennetts knew that they had an issue with the well from the beginning. So an easement was put in place. It happened to almost get the whole dock, but the easement was really for the water. It is the Ramshead property. It was the Ramshead dock, except for an exclusion in the original sales contract. The buyers at that time, being naive, did not pick up on it. The dock was not technically included in the sale. So the Bennetts, into the ownership of about 5 years, advised us that we were no longer able to use that dock. They were going to use it now for their own personal use. So subsequently and providentially, the dock on the causeway became available. And that's the dock that we purchased, that had been built in 1965 And we know the history of that dock, though it's a little bit clouded. In any case, the Rams Head did have a dock, and it's documented historically throughout the history of Shelter Island and the inn, not unlike the use of all the other non-conforming hotels that have docks. Regarding the launch, it's not a precedent-setting thing that a launch is allowed to be used. There's one that is allowed to be used over by Sunset Beach, which is actually advertised in town literature. And that operates every weekend and maybe even more than that. No one's suggesting that we want the Sunset Beach crowd to be at the Rams Head, but there is a launch. And, you know, from a standpoint of safety and just, you know, usability and ease of am I done? Okay.
Wait, I have a question. I just want to be clear on what you said. The Bennett well is in this easement?
No, it turns out that the Bennett well is not in the easement. It's just on the property line. But it was granted, the easement was, the purpose of it was for them because it extends up past the Bennett property line.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's the reason.
Yeah. Wow.
I see Bill, Darrell, and Pam Demers would like to speak again. Before I go to either of you, I want to see if there's anyone new who wishes to speak. And it looks like Stan.
Frank Eisler on Zoom.
Oh, Frank Eisler on Zoom. I didn't see him. Yes, if you want to come up. And then Frank Eisler will be next. Stan, right?
My name is Stan Church. I live on Big Ram. I was a member of the Ram Island Association early on for many, many years. I have recently talked to many Ram Island people that are supporting the Rams Head Inn and the whole concept of improving the dock. I think that there's a small group of people that live close to the Rams Head Inn that are opposing this. And I don't think that we're showing consideration for Andrea and the Rams Head Inn. If anything, with all of the hundreds of docks that are on Shelter Island, this is a unique situation where there's a commercial business being run. And because it's different from the majority, I think that it should have special consideration. I think that the dock should be built in a way that's safe, regardless of rules and regulations. If not, there's going to be liability, both for the hotel and maybe even the town. It's necessary for the dock to be in adequate water so that it doesn't create havoc for anyone pulling into that dock. I at times go over to that dock from my house to the Rams Head Inn just for a little ride in my Italian launch and go for lunch. And I love that. We live in a community of boating. Everyone that has waterfront property enjoys that. I just think that since the Rams Head Inn has been here for a century and we're all newcomers, I'm a newcomer for 40 years. And I think that, like I said, I think that we should have an open mind and be considerate. And if out of all the people that I talk to, they can't understand why this is going on in the first place. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Frank Eisler to speak next.
Thank you very much. My name is Frank Eisler. I'm a member of the firm of Smith, Finkelstein, Lundberg, Eisler, and Jakubowski in Riverhead. I am counsel for the Ram Island Association and have been requested to speak on their behalf at this hearing. The first point I need to raise is that there are several compelling reasons why this hearing should not be going forward at the present time. The first is, and most compelling to me, is for lack of a better term, the gorilla in the room, which is the lawsuit that is pending against the town by the Rams Hill Inn to determine and establish for them title to the causeway dock. And they're pursuing that vigorously as their right, I guess. And yet at the same time, they're now applying here for a second dock at on their property as well, to be used in conjunction with their operations. As far as we know, the town has never approved two docks on one parcel. So before this hearing can go forward, I think the applicant has to decide, are they going to pursue the litigation as to title to the causeway dock? And if successful, then they would have title to that. Or do they want to pursue this application? Or pursuing both of them could really end up potentially with two docks on this property, which is unheard of as far as I understand in Shelter Island. So I think it has to be really made clear that they can't have it both ways. If they want to withdraw their lawsuit, then proceed with this application. If they want to pursue their lawsuit, they should hold this application in their back pocket until such time as the litigation is concluded. There's some other reasons why this application has presented, as far as I have seen in the record, can go forward, which is independent of the one I just mentioned, is the code of the town 55-9C4 mandates that the application for the dock include the applications that were submitted to the other agencies that have issued permits on this. The DEC's application made by the Rams Head Inn is not part of the application package as far as I've been advised and seen. That is a requirement of this application, and it must be provided as part of the record. It's critical for the public to know what representations they make to the DEC when they got their permit for this dock. And that's, I think, one of the criteria why this code provision exists, so that the other underlying applications for other permits are all exposed.
Right. You just hit the 3-minute mark.
Okay.
I can circle back to you after anyone else new speaks. Thank you. I saw someone move up to the front row. Was that because you want to speak, or you're just moving seats? Just moving seats. Yes, just moving seats. Okay.
I would be happy to speak. My name is Levon Kellner, and I'd like to yield my time back to Frank.
We're not gonna do it that way, but appreciate the thought. I will circle back to Frank.
Let's speak if I may.
Okay, Andrea.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Andrea Carter, and the owner of Rams Head Inn. I want to thank you first and foremost for listening this evening in consideration. I want to thank the community for the overwhelming support that I've had and that Rams Head Inn has had this summer from folks who are excited about the inn being open and being able to have access from the water. I want you to know that I take it very seriously, the iconic property, and I am really proud to be the owner of the property, and I'm proud to be a member of this community. As such, I have taken great precautions, and I've taken this very seriously. We have an AED on our property. Not every property has one of those. We have a doctor that lives down the street on a speed dial, and he gives us choking lessons and other things for life-saving measures. This year, we did with a harbor master, we did a water safety exercise, and we repeat those water safety exercises. Additionally, I have a licensed captain who mans the dock and mans the launch so that he can safely get people to shore on a Coast Guard approved launch. And the reason why Coast Guard approved is so critical is because that particular boat can't sink or catch on fire. It has a fire suppression system. So the rigorous requirements to be Coast Guard approved, to have a man with a captain's license man the dock, for us to do water safety tests and drills, as well as safety drills throughout the property, I hope is a demonstration of my sincerity as a community member to be a good community member. I want to thank you again for the consideration I have about 60 employees. Many of them live on Shelter Island. And I know we'd like to have some assurance of knowing we'll be able to continue to operate on waterside. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Is there anyone who has not had a chance to speak yet that would like to for the first time before I circle back? Tom?
I'm Tom Roush. I live on Little Ram. I don't know where what I have to say belongs in the midst of this technical discussion, which I understand is totally necessary. And I respect that. But my main concern about the usage that's intended for this property right now, it is going to be profoundly destructive, intrusive into the lifestyle of the people who live particularly on the Rams, particularly the ones that are close to the inn. And this harkens to the issues which I understand with respect to, for example, the Sunset Beach and the Claudios. These are profoundly intrusive elements of our wonderful life here that are very disturbing to the peaceful enjoyment of what it means to live on Shelter Island. And I understand the technicalities, that I do not understand the technicalities. Sorry, I misspoke. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a physician. And can't really speak to those issues as the articulateness that everybody else seems to have. But I'm concerned about the lifestyle, what this is going to mean to people who live in that area. It's going to be Claudios. It's going to be Sunset Beach. Very unpleasant.
Thank you. Right. Allison Woodward, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Allison? Excuse me.
Hi, thank you. For some reason, I was not able to start my video or raise the hand. I presume you can hear me. I'm also here with my husband, John Woodward. And we would just we want to express some concerns. First of all, I think Mr. Eisler, as I understand, says he has been hired by the Ram's Head, the Ram Island Association. But my understanding is, as a member of the Ram Island Association and property owner here, the many members of the Ram Island Association were not advised about hiring Mr. Eisler. I think this is something actually the board has done. And so when he is speaking, my perception is that he's speaking on behalf of the board and not all the members of the Ram Island Association. And it is of concern. I don't appreciate some of this fear-mongering talk. I mean, there's been a commercial dock in use as long as I've been on Ram Island from the Ram Head Inn and when the Eklunds had it. So, the traffic has always been very similar. The water is very low there. You can't create a sunset beach if you wanted to. And so I just think we need to make sure we're really tuning back to the facts. We have the right people looking at how to best make this dock. And again, I want to make sure that when people speak that they are representing a group, it seems to be a group of individuals versus the entire population that lives on Ram Island.
Well put.
That would be my husband.
I will say one thing, and that is, I think Andrew's done a great job with the end. I think that the dock in question on the Bennett property was originally the Ram's Head Inn dock. I think that viewing the safety access of boaters that want to go, take their skiff over, have dinner. Okay. I think that has to be taken into consideration. And I think that, it's a kind of thing where if she abuses a privilege or if all of a sudden, 60-foot boats start showing up, then all of a sudden it's a different ball game. Okay. But, I think give her a break and not a break, but just give her the opportunity to hang herself. I don't think she will. I don't think she will, because I think she's very responsible and she's done a good job.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else new? There we go, video.
So cute.
All right, I will circle back then to people who wish to speak a second time. John Needham, okay?
Take two.
And just remember to not reiterate points you've already made, but new or rebuttals.
In point.
No, just trying to keep it.
Or else what?
Moving forward. The gavel.
Yes, thank you. So I've been on Huckles Harbor for 49 years. I'm also a member of the Waterways, Shelter Island Waterways Advisory Council for 25 years. There's an option here that we haven't discussed at all or approached. So I'd like to either ask the Ramsey City representatives to address that option directly, or you guys inquire of them. And that option would be to reuse the dock as it's there now. It seems to accommodate the launch perfectly. There seems to be additional room for dinghies, which there's always access for dinghies to come in there. It wouldn't require any reconfiguration. I think it's suitable to do what you're trying to accomplish, but maybe you're trying to accomplish something out there. I think that question should be posed. Why can't the current dock be used as its?
Okay. Mark, did you have your hand up for a second? Mark Ween, did you raised your hand at one point to speak? Okay, just Bill Darrow. What? Oh, we have a new hand?
Oh, you had your hand up. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, hand. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't see you back.
I'm Lisa Pintron, homeowner of Shelter Island, and friends with parties on both sides. I just want to say that in the spirit of capitalism and community behavior, I think that ganging up on a business owner who's trying to employ locals, provide an amenity to the island, and has shown great respect for the environment in terms of her cooperation with Cornell and replanting oyster beds. I think, we should all step back and perhaps look at this from the perspective of the American constitutional values, that we encourage community and we encourage the free market. And as far as I know, the Rams Head Inn, I've been there several times. The noise level is not excessive, in my opinion. The property is well kept. There's stewardship of the environment, and certainly we know that employment is really important to keep people on this island healthy and providing for their families. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, I had Bill Darrow next.
Yeah, good evening. I'm going to be very quick. To the Woodwards, I love you guys, but there was a meeting a year ago, the Rhode Island Association. Everyone voted to support Frank Eisler and the work around the dock issue. To the gentleman who said rules and regulations should be overlooked, we have rules and regulations. We have zoning. This is why we live here. This is why I bought our houses here. We've all spent a lot of money on our properties. To those who say just let her run with it, you don't need a 40-foot facing dock. You're talking about something much bigger, a much bigger operation. Unless this town restricts the operations, then we are going to have a very big problem over there. We're going to have boat accidents. We're going to have lots of noise. It is not going to be what it is today. There are people who have spent millions and millions of dollars on their properties whose voices need to be heard. Property owners nearby matter. The person who's talking about constitutional rights, my property rights matter. I bought my property under the zoning laws that existed at the time, which exist today. It is a non-conforming property in a residential zone. They were using a dock that they were not allowed to use. The Bennett dock was a pass dock. I respect Mr. Needham greatly, probably more than anybody else on this topic. I would accept his suggestion to maybe using the Bennett dock in this current formation for historical purposes, but nothing more than that. The last one I make is, I believe that Mr. Eklund has a financial interest in the property still, and his statement should be considered as such. Thank you.
Alex Kriegsman.
think he stepped away at the balcony.
Okay, he's back. Alex, did you wish to speak now? I called on you while you were away.
Thank you. I'd like to speak last, please.
Pam?
Okay, so I'm just gonna report that there have been 40-footers coming in and mooring on the moorings, which I'm not really sure the tackle is able to handle. There was a boat that was taking patrons of the inn this past weekend, 10 at a time, 5 times in one day. They were going out water skiing, so this is expansion of use. And I am going to mention that the fellow at Crescent Beach required a permit to operate his launch. This is not a given that you can just operate a launch. The fellow down there needs a permit. So, you know, there's a lot of things happening around here that eyes need to be opened and people need to see what's going on and do the right thing accordingly. And making it fair and following the town code and that's all I expect. Appliance that, you know, just compliance with the town code is what we all expect. That's why it's there. The rules are there. The size of the dock is larger than what's allowed. A 700-foot dock is allowed in a residential zone, not 1,200, not 1,064 feet, which is this proposal, I believe is correct off the top of my head.
What? No.
Including the ramp, including the ramp going up the bluff, yes. You must take in total, and as a matter of fact, another little detail is that 10 by 10 foot platform is not existing. It hasn't been existing, it's just not there. So there are a lot of details on the dock that I don't wish to review this evening, but I will certainly alert you to what I have noticed that are not in compliance with town code according to those parameters that are in. Thank you.
Frank, we're back to you.
Thank you very much. One thing that I have not heard discussed is the fact that under your code, a commercial dock is not permitted in any zone other than the B zone. There's no question that this dock, if it's used by the Ram's Head Inn, it's a commercial use, it's a commercial dock. It's prohibited in the zoning district where this property is located. So that cannot be ignored. That there is a prohibition in your code against a commercial dock at this site. Mr. Eckley's comment about the use of this dock, the Bennett dock in historic, I'll accept what he said as factual, but the fact of the matter is it hasn't been used as a commercial dock since Bennett put his easement on it. It's a residential dock, and under your code, non-conforming uses are abandoned after 1 year of non-use as in that capacity. So this dock that we're talking about today is a residential dock that the Bennett property has rights over. The minute the Ram's Head Inn starts using it, and I'm hearing they're apparently doing it already, they're turning it into a commercial dock, which is a zoning prohibition. Any expansion of a non-conforming use requires a special permit from the zoning board. No discussion about that either here. We're all talking about ways of finding that this dock can be used as proposed, where there are these fundamental zoning and land use issues that are in your code that simply can't be ignored. But thank you very much. I appreciate you coming back to me.
Thank you, Frank. Alex, you're up.
Thanks very much.
Hold on, someone, Mark, come on up. Knew you'd want
A lot of this has been going on for decades. I think the simplest solution before you is the one that comes from Chairman Needham. And it's very simple. Let's keep what we have and use it according to the law. No one's asking not to obey the law, and no one's asking to make it smaller than it is. It's very simple, in place, and used just the way it has been used, the Bennett dock.
Any room? Okay. Alex, you're up.
Thanks very much. Look, everybody knows this is an inn that has been here for decades. It's a dock that's been there for decades. And it's unfortunate that there are a small group of neighbors who are putting their personal opinions over the town, over the people who work there. It should be very clear, Frank Eisler is not authorized, he has not been duly authorized to represent the Ram Island Association in connection with this application. His comments, unless he wants to speak on behalf of himself, should be disregarded. And for him to represent otherwise is a violation of the rules of ethics that govern the practice of law. As far as the substance of the points he made, if he wants to speak for himself, this has nothing to do with the lawsuit. This is a solution to an ongoing issue that was suggested by the town. This is a town that is on record saying that they support the business, that they want a solution for this. We're not looking for two docks. We're happy to make a condition of approval of how to deal with the Causeway dock, and that can easily be dealt with council as a condition of approval. No one's looking for two docks on the property. The arguments about the code and the commercial dock are also without merit. It's very clear from section 53 that this is a completely proper use, and it's something that's supported by the town. It's supported by most of the folks who live on Ram Island, and I would urge you to approve it. Thank you.
All right. If there are no other comments, we are going to adjourn this hearing. And we will probably discuss it. We'll have to figure out, I guess, get advice from legal counsel as to like putting it on which work session and whether or not it can be discussed at the work session, or if we have to go back to a public hearing before we take it to a work session. I'm not 100% clear on that. We'll work that out, and we will be forthcoming with how the process will continue.
Right.
So Jerry and Stephen can come back in.
Do they have to? You're so well without them.
And thank you, everyone, for being.
And I compliment the town board, I think you're doing a great job.
Thanks, John. Okay, so I make a motion to adjourn and then to go back into the regular.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay.
Those people that choose to leave right now, so we're going to continue the meeting, but let's take 1 minute break to bring Jerry and Stephen back in. People will leave, they need to leave. Thank you very much, and let's give Amber a nice, good job. Great job, Amber.
I missed the applause.
It wasn't for you.
It wasn't for, damn it.
It wasn't for you.
I thought they were applauding that I wasn't here.
Well, that's possible. Oh, gosh.
Good job.
Forget him. It's like, all right.
Seems like she had a calming in this,
Oh, totally.
from what I can hear.
Yeah, right. Because you weren't really.
No, I wasn't.
Dudes.
Would you need the best? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
They're on the back of it.
Start with Granite, yeah.
Just a recommendation that we might want to do. Everybody took a lot of notes.
Yes.
We did kind of put our notes together. You know, within the next week or so. Pull them to Stephen. Maybe we can.
No.
Tim. Okay, we'll go back to Tim with those notes.
Because I have some questions.
I think we have a lot to think about and all this stuff.
Yeah, it looks like Tim's. Reach out to him.
All right.
When I act on,
Granite. Okay.
Granite, I don't have any.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say Meg can do granite.
Whereas Keith A. Granite, 11 Hillside Drive, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in the West Neck Bay near Highland Dock at a location designated as latitude 41.06571 north and longitude 72.363724 west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 16th day of August 2022 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition to. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the act mentioned installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hockey resolution, whereas Bruce Hockey, 43 West Neck Road, is petitioning the town of Shelter Island for permission to relocate mooring designated as W-3137 from a location off Simpson Road to a location designated as latitude 41.064698 degrees north, longitude 72.363503 degrees west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held the 16th day of August 2022 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition, now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the affirmation relocation. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, if it's fine, we will open them.
No, there's more.
Valentino, right?
Valentino and Gardner's.
You got Valentino. So
I have Valentino.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say it was, you just handed the backside of the Gary.
Oh, all right.
I have Valentino too.
Yeah, I have that.
Okay, somebody read. Okay.
Want to read it?
You don't have to read the whole entire.
Right.
One.
Okay, now Valentino Wetlands Resolution, whereas Sherman Engineering Consulting, PA, on March 22, 2022, submitted a wetlands permit application on behalf of Heidi Valentino, Qualified Personal Residence Trust by Robert Valentino, trustee pursuant to Chapter 129 of the Town Code to legalize an existing deck, the awning above, located 68 feet 8 inches from the wetlands boundaries, 75 square foot within the vegetative buffer, install a generator 83 feet from the wetlands boundary, and install a generator 56 feet from the wetlands boundaries, and remove an existing conventional septic system located 66 feet from the wetlands boundary. Whereas the subject property is located at 8 Osprey Lane, Shelter Island, New York, which is within a residential zoning district near Shore and Peninsula Overlay District with a Suffolk County tax map number of 0700-23-3-63.1, the property, whereas the shoreline adjacent to the property is not hardened. And whereas the proposed project, after certain amendments, includes the removal of the following from the regulated area as shown in the Sherman Engineering and Consulting PA site plan dated June 13, 2022, which is available. Anybody want to see it? Be it further resolved that the wetlands permit from above described work to be conducted at the property is hereby granted subject to the following conditions, which are available should anybody want to see them. And it's incumbent upon the person being granted this permit that they know them. Be it further resolved, the copies of this approval shall be filed with the building inspector. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I have the ambulance fund. Whereas the Shelter Island Ambulance Foundation has filed an outdoor assembly permit to hold a cricket match to be held on Saturday, August 20th, 2022 from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And whereas the applicant has requested an exemption from the noise ordinance, and whereas the town board has reviewed said application, now therefore be it resolved that said request is hereby approved. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Then we have 42 Gardner's there.
Yeah.
Whereas Bennett and Reed LLP on May 13th, 2022 submitted a wetlands permit application on behalf of 42 Gardner's Bay LLC pursuant to Chapter 129 of the Town Code to remove an existing retaining wall and pool equipment from the title wetlands adjacent regulated area, remove an existing 12 by 12 concrete pad and LP tank from the freshwater adjacent regulated area. Whereas additionally, on December 21st, 2021, Bennett Reed LLP submitted a special permit application on behalf of 42 Gardner's Bay LLC pursuant to Chapter 133, Section 133-7F1 of the Town Code to construct a dwelling larger than 6,000 SFLA, to wit 9,053 square feet, and also construct a pool house with 226 SFLA and an accessory structure with sleeping with 1,500 SFLA for a total of 10,779 SFLA. Whereas the subject property is 297,277 square feet in size, currently improved with a pre-existing non-conforming 8,882 square foot dwelling and located at 42 Gardeners Bay Drive, Shelter Island, New York, which is within the AA residential zoning district near Shore Peninsula overlay with the Suffolk County tax map number of 700-1-2-73.4, the property. Whereas the property contains both tidal and freshwater wetlands, whereas the certain portions of the shoreline adjacent to the property is hardened, whereas the proposed project includes the removal of the following from the regulated area as shown on the F. Michael Hemmer LSPC proposed site plan, last dated August 20th, 2021, an existing retaining wall and pool equipment from the tidal wetlands adjacent regulated area, and an existing 12 by 12 concrete pad and LP tank from the freshwater adjacent regulated area. Whereas the project further includes the demolition of pre-existing non-conforming 8,882 square foot dwelling and the construction of the following as shown on the F. Michael Hemmer LSPC proposed site plan, last dated August 20th, 2021, a dwelling with 9,053 square feet, a pool house with 226 SFLA, and an accessory structure with sleeping with 15,000 SFLA for a total of 10,779 SFLA. Whereas the application was referred to the Planning Board and CAC for recommendations, and recommendations have been submitted and considered. And whereas the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation permits have been issued for the subject property, title wetlands permit and ID number 10-47320-00149/00011 dated September 17th, 2021. Freshwater wetlands permit ID 1-47320-00149/00013 dated September 17th, 2021. And coastal erosion permit ID number 1-47320-00149/00012 dated September 17th, 2021. Whereas this board considered the proposed action at the public hearing pursuant to notice on July 1st, 2021 and on July 26th, 2022. And whereas this board now wishes to render a decision on both the wetlands and special permit applications, now therefore be it resolved that this board hereby establishes itself as lead agency pursuant to SECRA and finds that this is a type 2 action which will not result in significant adverse impact to the environment. And be it further resolved that the town board makes the following findings as to the application. The page and a half of findings and requirements are available should anyone want to see them. So be it further resolved that copies of this approval, do I have to read all of them?
No, they're available.
Be it further resolved that copies of this approval shall be filed with the building inspector. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
That's all of them.
Okay, at this time, we'll open the meeting to the public for any public comment. Anybody in the office, in the audience?
Okay. Also a member of the CPF committee. I actually have a procedural question. And it concerns the contract with Mercer Consult. I have some cryptic notes from 64E here, so give me a little latitude. The statute says that the transfer of development right program, when it's established, CPF funds can be used to create and fund a central bank TDR program. Do we have a TDR program is the question, I guess.
No, that's what they're going to prepare.
If you read the statute, I guess maybe I'm picking, but it says when it is established, you can use the funds.
No, you got to look at the complete section. I mean, you have to look at the preceding sentence where the town board of any town of Peconic Bay region which is established a community preservation fund pursuant to the section shall study and consider establishing shall study, so we have to study, and it wasn't done yet, should have been done, and consider establishing a TDR program. And the only way you can do that is with the GEIS, which you have to do. So my reading of it is you can use CPF funds because not only does this provision, in my mind, allow you to do it, but if you look at one of the purposes of the CPF fund, if you go to 64E3, the purposes of the CPF fund shall be exclusively for, you got A, which is to implement the plan for the preservation of community character, B, to acquire interests of rights and real property, And C, to establish a bank pursuant to a TDR program consistent with section 261A of this chapter. So one of the purposes of the CPF program is to establish a program. It's telling you that you shall consider it
Not CPF.
because the CPF allows you. The CPF statute, in my interpretation, allows the town board to use CPF.
What I was suggesting to you, the language gives us another interpretation also. The program must be established. The other towns already had theirs before we even considered this 0.5% for affordable housing or anything else. So that's just a one comment. How much is this contract for? I don't know if I just.
100,000.
It is. I guess I have the same complaint that Pam had. To see this less than 24 hours beforehand. The committee, you know, Jerry, met on
The agenda was posted at 6:10 p.m. last night. That's 24 hours.
Okay, so at 8:30 yesterday morning, the CPF committee met. There was a town member there.
The chairman of the CPF was aware of this. He chose not to share it with you.
I'll let him speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Supervisor, I really, I have 3 minutes, right? So I guess I've got to be very careful with my time. I did meet with you, since you were going to get into this, I did meet in an executive session with this town board. I usually don't like to discuss what takes place, but you made the comment that, okay, that I chose not to relay this information. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Was there a formal proposal anybody presented to me in that executive session? And anybody say, we're going to put $100,000 aside, and we're going to use CPF money for that?
I believe we did say that we were going to use CPF.
No, you did not. Okay. But we don't take minutes in executive session. I'd like to go back, just to correct you, okay? We do have a liaison, okay? And I specifically, at yesterday's meeting when CPF did not discuss anything with TDRs and was tempted to bring this conversation up, but didn't think it was a formalized issue, that there was nothing formally said, okay, that this is the direction you're going to go. Okay. I feel that it's not about me as the chairman, it's really about our committee. I think they're entitled to know what's going on. Okay. At one moment we say, why are we talking about TDRs? We don't need TDRs for affordable housing. So why are we continue this discussion on TDRs? Well, if we don't need them, why are we doing this?
Who says we don't need them for affordable housing?
I'm sorry, I've heard this from DJ, that we don't need TDR in order to create.
It's not a be all end all, but it certainly will help with it.
But hold on a second, the statement was made in that context that they do not need TDRs to do affordable housing. And you've said it yourself, Steve.
No, absolutely.
Okay, so the thing is,
You can have community housing without utilizing TDRs.
Correct.
But you have a more effective community housing program if you utilize TDRs. But again, he could reserve his minutes. I don't want to steal his minutes right now. But again, we keep skipping over the fact that 64E compels the town board to look into a TDR program. It doesn't say may, it says shall. The town board shall look into the creation of a TDR program. One of the purposes of the CPF in the state statute, in our town code, is to look into creating a TDR program and a bank. The law is clear, and that's all we're doing. No one's saying it's coming, but we're exploring it.
listen, I'm not an attorney, okay, but I will just make this comment. When we talked about going back and grabbing credits for TDRs or for existing property, I didn't know, I asked the question, how do you support that? And you said to me, okay, the old, I had the old one, the oldest one, but you sent me the newest edition, okay, of 64E. And you sent me just this basic section on 10, which talked specifically about being able to recapture points. But then there were other things in this legislation that had also changed, and this is one of them. okay, that changed, okay, that was not there existing, okay? Again, we go back to this issue, okay, of, yes, it's there now, and it was in there since October of last year. At the beginning of the year, before the new board was in place, it was explained, okay, well, we're going to see what we can do with CPF and what usage we can do with the land and what we can do and we can't do. And then we had obviously the Glenawickus property come about and no conversation with CPF, not me, but CPF. So we just throw it out. Today, okay, we're dealing with something. Does it take a lot to communicate with CPF and say, hey, we would like to present this?
No, but in my
asking a lot.
I'm not going to speak on behalf of the town board, but what I'm going to speak to is the mandate of your committee, which you do a great job. Your mandate is to review and make recommendations on proposed acquisitions of interest in real property. That's what your mandate is, not for the ancillary mechanisms to effectuate the CPF, which this is. Exploring a TDR program has nothing to do with your committee. That's a town board decision that they're compelled to do. It says the town board of any town in the Peconic Bay region, which has established a CPF fund, shall study and consider establishing a TDR program. It's crystal clear. And then it says monies from CPF can be used for that endeavor. And it would be, in my mind, a breach of their fiduciary duty if they did not use the CPF monies, which were paid for by people purchasing on the island and made the resident taxpayers flip the $100,000 bill when we have the CPF money that it could be used for. So that's why it was suggested to the town board, but I'm not going to speak to them about communicating.
There was no mention, amount spelled out of 100,000. Okay, that's what I'm saying to you. Let's assume you're correct. Okay, and I'll use a word that somebody said to me, a political person. We have laws. And just because there's laws and you can do things, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the correct thing to do.
No.
Just let me finish. I listened to you.
No, absolutely.
I'm going beyond my time, but it's like, I just think a little respect. We have all volunteers. People give years of time and effort. We dealt with the Glenawickus. I feel like we're dealing with it here again. What's wrong with a phone call? I mean, quite honestly, I want to talk to you really about it because a whole month goes by, 4 weeks go by. I don't hear from anybody from this town board. I got to prepare something, and then it's well, what do I do? Okay, so we're really not. And let me finish, please. I listen to you, and so it's like I really feel that it was basically a lack. We want communication. It starts here. Start communicating with people like they're people, like we're residents and we're part of the community. Okay, I know there's some differences of point of opinion, and yes, it's legal, and maybe you can do all these things. It's something that it just
it's not do. We have to do it. It's not they're electing to do it. We have to do it. Yes, we have to do it. The law is clear.
You don't not have to talk to us.
No, but in fairness, the board,
you could bring to our committee and say, hey, this is what we got going on, just as a courtesy.
No, but in fairness, it was brought to your attention that this is what the town board was leaning towards because I spoke to you about it.
But it was never said that there was.
No, but you never objected to it.
I'm sorry?
You never objected.
I see. Okay. I got how it works. Okay, so I have to come up on a more regular basis. I'm really.
I was going to say, it was my understanding that we informed you about it last week.
You informed me about it last week.
Yes. So that's my understanding. I'm not a liaison to the committee, but that's why you were in
This liaison to the committee misunderstood. I thought by saying what we said in executive session was informing. And I thought if you thought it import, you would bring it and you do control your agendas, you would put it on there. And I didn't see it.
I don't know what our committee controls anymore.
Well, of course you do. But it didn't even occur to me that it was my job. And for that, I actually apologized to you many, many times this morning. And I'll just say it again publicly. I am so sorry that I misinterpreted what you think my job is, because I think it's very important that I meet your expectations on a fairly regular basis. So as I said to you this morning, I'm going to try again to just be better at that, the communication. And so I just don't know what else to do, as I said this morning, to make this better, to make you feel better about it, other than to say, I'm going to try to correct the future.
I think that the respect once in a while is a good thing.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
This is a poor communication. I think.
Right, what I said was poor?
I'm saying to you that this.
Be in this moment.
Without even a dollar amount, and we keep talking about TDRs, and we don't have creating, but I just want to move off this way, okay? This is, I can only say that, and again, this is, it sounds poor. Prior to this new administration, CPF worked in a very flowing way, okay? And we didn't have these controversial issues because there was a shared back and forth between the board. I've tried to communicate, I've tried to be part of a team. I hate going in a public environment like this and exercising these concerns, okay? But it's almost like, I don't know why you need me. It seems like, and I think you're looking for something that is not really meant for me, because it's like, you.
May I ask you a question? In 2000, I don't know if it was 2003 or 2006, the state put the TDR in effect. 2013, our CPF got an opinion from the CPF overall committee that we needed to put a TDR in place. Why was it ignored for so many years?
Well, you're attempting to put me on the spot.
I'm asking you a question. You're the chairman. Were you the chairman when it came up in 2013?
No.
But it's in your records. I looked in the SharePoint. It's on there. The opinion is there.
And you were on the community housing board when I took you to a piece of property that I recommended that the community housing board looked at for community housing.
And if we had money,
you remember that?
If we had money, we would have bought it.
But there was an opportunity, okay? So I don't want to go into
question, Gordon. Why was there a conscious effort not to do it, to transfer of development rights plan? Yeah, conscious.
I think that's something, okay, as the supervisor, we talked to the other supervisor.
I'm talking to you. The opinion was given to the CPF.
My opinion, Barry, I wasn't there in 2013, okay? The decision was made. They never thought about TDRs. They didn't have municipal water, okay? They didn't have sewers, and I presented to the board why Malone said not to consider TDRs. The thing changed, and actually we have even right now, we're spending this money, and even Stephen Kiley says, hey, we don't even know whether we can use any TDRs. It might be that we can't use them. But, and then at the same time, we say we don't need TDRs. So
we keep saying that, Gordon. We don't say we don't need TDRs.
You don't need
to say we can do it without them.
My
see them for community housing. That's what was said.
My response to that would be TDRs is just one arrow in the quiver. So yeah.
And you know what that's the concern the public has over these TDRs.
And also the consultants are also going to they're going to look whether or not it's even feasible. We may not end up spending 100,000 because they may get to the point where they say there are reasons, constraints that you can't make, that this can't happen on Shelter Island. So it's 100,000 at the max, but it may be 5,000. I don't know what they'll charge, but it's stepped. It's a stepped process. So we'll see how it goes.
And respectfully, I just want to inject here. The mandate for the committee, which they do an amazing job, is to find properties to purchase for preservation, whether it's being solicited, going out and trying to find, that's their mandate. The TDR discussion is on the town board level. It shouldn't have to come from, the committee. The CPF committee has one charge: find properties to preserve and bring it to the town board. And as far as communication, there was a procedure that was presented to the CPF to foster communication and have constant dialogue with the chair and the town board, so things like this wouldn't happen. And I'm hoping that it will be implemented by the CPF, because that was the goal.
What you're saying to me, Stephen, is that even with the town of records, there was no obligation to talk to CPF ahead of time.
I don't know about I wasn't around.
Well, I
don't even know.
We have a lot of that, okay, but the thing is, I'm just saying to you, what's the harm of communicating with this committee?
Again, the chair was communicated with regarding this issue.
Okay, and that's the way you're gonna leave it. Okay.
However, I'd like to say.
Experience, we learned from the feedback we received from the community, and we moved it. And that whole line of thinking, it's no longer an issue. Number two is on the white property. I'll say this publicly. I feel there's a good community, a good team effort on the part of you and this town board in terms of securing that property. I just want to know that team effort was exceptional.
Jim, and
That's number three. I'm going to finish.
That's why you're here.
And number three was the fact that there's got to be more appreciation when a person, offers an apology. It's an apology. It's sincere. It was meant well. It's got to be accepted. If it can't be accepted, then we have a problem. I do think that when a person offers to go, meet somebody and has apologized for their actions, let it go. I mean, let's move on. Let's learn from it and let's seek to improve that, not just the lines of communication. The word is respect for one another. And I think you have to understand that when you sit in this seat, as I do with my 4 colleagues, this is not the only thing that comes across my plate during the course of a month. I am inundated with 9,000 other things. And I think we all feel that same push. We sit on many, many committees and try to do the work that in bigger towns, they got a zillion more people being able to do what this town board does. I'm getting a little kind of, I'll take just so much criticism for what we do, but I'll tell you what, these 5 people that sit here, including this town attorney, do a hell of a job trying to make good decisions for this town. That's all I have to say.
I don't know what to say other than I don't know what apology you're talking about. And if it's something personal, you know, really.
I don't want to go into details. I just think let's move forward.
I specifically avoided discussing this at our CPF meeting because of the things that were ongoing. I felt we had enough confusion, enough things going on. You saw on my agenda sheet, there was a discussion on TBRs. We got to that point, I deleted it because I said, you know what, that's three different things have to get it done as a group of people. So why bring up more of this here? I was caught off guard with this morning. Okay, I think that's what really has disturbed over. There was never an indication. I did not get an indication that this is the direction we were going. So I'm just saying to you, I was just a little off guard. I think even though we don't get involved with, we're an advisory group, and as you said, this may not be something for us. But how about just letting these people know that work so hard? Shouldn't they know they have to go to a public hearing or hear it in the newspaper of, well, CPF did this, they gave 100,000 into a fund, okay, for something that
it's the town board using town funds.
And it could be correct, like I said, but is it right? Is it right?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end it. I think the same way, point taken.
Yeah.
And I think some of those words impacted me personally. So I point well taken.
Yeah. And the white property is a perfect example of why we need you all. The white property acquisition is the perfect example of why we need you all. It was quite the dance, and thank you. It was good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody in the Zoom audience?
I have a question. It's Julia.
Yep.
Just not to contradict the town attorney, but it's my understanding that one of the roles of the Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board is to produce a Community Preservation Fund plan and to update that plan periodically. I can't find the plan on the website. I've asked for a copy of it and no one seems to have a copy of the current Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board plan. And it's my understanding it hasn't been updated either. So I was just wondering, Stephen, if that also is part of the charge to that committee.
Yeah, again, that's part and parcel of review and make recommendations for acquisitions. So it's not contradicting what I said, it's bolstering. what I said, because again, they have to make recommendations based on a plan of acquisition. But that has nothing to do with TDRs.
No, she's not saying that.
Yeah.
Yes, Julia, you are correct. They are supposed to have a plan, and no, we do not have one at the moment.
And I too, Julia, have asked for a copy, but I've been unable to secure one. If I do, I'll pass you a copy. For the old plan, I mean.
Right.
Thank you.
It would, Julia, it would probably be very helpful, obviously, because it would spell out more definitively what the role of the committee is versus the role of the town board. So I think maybe that's something to a certain extent, I don't know, to a certain extent, maybe that's not clear.
Anybody else? Julie Lane?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Okay, if there's nobody else, I'm going to make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.